U.S. Representative for Arizona's 5th Congressional District and co-chair of the Border Security Caucus, Andy Biggs. Thanks for being here tonight, Congressman.
Thank you. It's good to be with you.
Great. So do you think the senator is onto something with this piece of legislation?
Yeah, I really do. I mean, I know that Texas has an easier time of it because they've got so much private property that they can go through and use eminent domain and maybe get something done there. Arizona has a little bit tougher time, but man, I was just down there and there is lots of material there and there are lots of gaps in the fence. And if we could close those gaps up, it would really be helpful. So yeah, I think she's onto something. I'm going to sign on to that bill for sure. We want to get something like that going.
You see this material has already been paid for, and now it actually costs money for it to just lie around. So, I mean, even then it's still costing us all this taxpayer money. So do you think that perhaps with some of that sensibility that maybe you could snag a few Democrat colleagues over to sign on to such a bill to get it passed? Or do you think they're probably too entrenched ideologically? We might have to wait till the next Congress is seated.
I think it's going to be it'd be a tough fit to get some of those Democrats to come over. They don't even think, by the way, they don't even think there's a crisis on the border. So most of them. So to get anybody to come over and sign us on that would be very difficult. But it doesn't take long to realize there's a crisis. And this is one way to slow it down a little bit.
You got me there on that one. You're exactly right. They don't even see it as a crisis, so they kind of would shrug their shoulders and say, oh, well. But as you were mentioning, you recently were visiting the border. You are representing a district in a border state. Title 42 was supposed to come down on Monday, but of course a federal judge has intervened on that. What were you seeing on the ground so far?
Well, you know, it's worse than ever. Let's just call it the way it is. It's worse than ever. And quite frankly, this administration is trying to go around that injunction already. I've been told that they're stopping removals from certain states or nations simply because that's the way they want to do it. And what's going to happen is they're going to find a workaround. They're going to get around that judge's order, and they're going to see people coming in, and they're going to release them into our nation because, make no mistake, this is what the Democrats want. They want an open border, and this fits the bill.
And when we talk about the open border and the myriad of problems that do go along with it, of course, many of them matters of life or death. We see that the FBI is saying that they have uncovered a plot in which there was a suspect who I believe is an Iraqi national who may have come over here through asylum or that type of law, through that type of process, but was in communications with others around the world, up to 4, who he wanted to get ISIS members involved with this. They were going to have them fly down, I think, into Brazil and then go up into Mexico, and then from there exploit our open southern border to come across into the U.S. to scout out locations in Texas to do an attempt on the former president, George W. Bush's life. What is your reaction to such a plot?
Well, it's outrageous, of course, and it's something that we've been saying is becoming more plausible over time. Before we thought it was just possible, now it's plausible because the border's absolutely open. We're not sending people home. And quite frankly, when you get to Brazil and you start going through and then you start working your way up Central America through the Darien Gap in Panama, you're going to find most of those people are going to end up going to the Texas, Rio Grande Valley or Del Rio areas, and there it's wide open. You can see it. I mean, people just walk across the river, they swim across, the cartels boat them across, and they'll come in. And even if they're high-value targets from special interest nations, what'll happen is our Border Patrol is so overwhelmed just processing these people that there's miles and miles of open border, so terrorists and other threats can come into our border almost completely unstopped.
And going back to something you were mentioning earlier, when you were at the border and you were talking to border agents there, what were they telling you about what they were seeing, what kind of help that they are needing, and I guess what help they were not getting?
What they always tell me now for about a year, they say, look, we of course we could use resources, of course we could use personnel, but what we really need is policy change. We need the changes in the policy so that we can enforce the law and do our jobs. But this administration under Secretary Mayorkas has defied the law. I mean, these are statutes. These are laws they're supposed to follow and implement. They've defied them, and they've welcomed in these hundreds of thousands and millions, actually, of illegal aliens. And so agents, they're demoralized. The agents have told me, they said, look, we don't even see what benefit we're creating. I mean, because if they catch somebody and they do their law enforcement job, almost immediately these people are going to be released into the United States of America. That's why the morale is so very, very low.
Well, Congressman, stay safe out there, and thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you. You too. Be safe and keep fighting the fight with us.
Thank you. And up next, while some are already